But what was I gonna say? It was funny. Some like fucking dumb shit libertarian dude was arguing on Facebook, and he's like, free market works. Look at the marijuana market. That's a great example of the free market. I'm like, no, it's not. It's the opposite of that. It's all the big corporations are scared because it's only kind of legal, so they're not in there. And the moment it becomes like federally legal, 99% of marijuana you see is going to be Philip Morris's brand fucking Marlboro Extra Green. And they will, like, they've got all the infrastructure. Like, they've got fucking fields for growing,
warehousing.
Yeah.
Yep. All of it.
Advertising. Like, the moment the big companies are let loose in that market, it's just gonna fucking decimate.
Yep.
All the little utopia.
Premium.
Oh, completely. Yeah, it's gonna separate just like the beer industry separates. It's gonna be like the mom and pop places that sell super high end shit, and like all like the fresh, edibles and like all that kind of stuff. And then, like you said, there's gonna be Marlboro Greens that you can get at the liquor store, which just aren't as good.
All right, so show 3. What are we doing?
Your news.
Randos.
Randos and beer news.
We have randos.
Go to Google News and type craft beer, and then let's talk about.
Go to Anchor.fm.4 Brewers and listen to everything I did last week.
Yeah, pretty much.
We can talk about your craft label article thing.
Yeah, sure.
That was really good.
I didn't know about House Barat.
$800. Yeah, dude. They hit me up. They're like, "Would you do? You interested? Are you interested in doing an opinion piece for about 1,000 words? We'll pay $800." Yeah, I can do that.
As you're typing, you're just like, there's $1, there's $1, there's $1, there's $1.
I would totally do that.
I don't even. They previous articles they go for $400 to $500. Talking about brewing equipment, they pay really well. I don't know who fucking reads it. I'm getting a drone. And my Rode Filmmakers kit. That's my smart lavalier thing. I'm excited about.
Clean up somehow.
Fresh glass. Dump the dumper. Get some water.
That dongle life. I'll put some music on.
I'm creating a list of topics.
Cool.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Is that all positive things? I don't think we mentioned like HorseCom or anything.
Sully knows me.
There you go.
I don't actually like them very much. Unless they're beer.
Trying to blow through all my cellar. Closet space back.
Mm. Fucking this beer name. Matt, Evil Twins got a new beer. I have no idea where this will lead us, but I have a definite feeling it will be an IPA both wonderful and strange.
Yeah,
like a-
that's definitely Evil
The
Twins.
fucking post-rock song title. John, look at this
Fiona
beer.
Apple album title.
John, the beer name.
Huh?
His beer name.
All right. Let's throw a couple of Bob's beers in there too, since there's only 3 here.
I'm
Do you
back.
have
beers.
Bob's Burgers?
Where that?
In the garage.
Why?
Fucking hate it. Why does the media give attention to these fucking dumb shits? Guy said, I opened a can of Heineken and there was 2 geckos in there. Go fuck yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Because there's a lawsuit.
So? If the lawsuit didn't get headlines, it would just fucking die.
Yeah, no one would give a shit.
Yeah.
I shared it.
I hate that
Because there's an Orange County guy. That's the only reason I shared it.
every 2 months there's
Got
some
randos that Jason brought over that we never dipped into.
every 2 months there's like some fucking bullshit story where it's like, oh, I found a human head in my fucking egg salad, and it's just like, no, you didn't. It's always fake. It's always bullshit.
Have any funky Buddha beers? That's a lot of... Jason, who? Brought these? Who brought us these beers?
I think I brought-
Jason brought those and those.
Painting in my house yesterday. Lost my balance and fell backwards and up into a doorknob. Just went,
How do you fall up?
well, I was trying to stand up as I was falling.
Oh,
Right in the fucking kidney.
This article is claiming these are the most beautiful beer cans in Massachusetts.
Oh.
I think they're pretty cool looking beer cans.
There's also a beer from Jason Evans that we never opened.
We don't need 17 beers. We could do maybe 4.
No, I'm just showing you the beers.
Okay, I was
Just
like,
leave them on the table and we'll pick as we go.
And then
Yeah,
the
let's
one
just
he
do that.
has is like a sour stout.
a stouter.
Stouter, stout.
These are pretty cool cans. Did you see these, Matt?
baby?
These cans.
Yeah.
Yeah, cans.
Snap cans. Oh, those do look nice.
What do you think of these cans, John?
I like those. Snap cans.
Our website called Snap Cans.
I like them.
Pretty cool looking.
Here on Snap Cans, we've got some cans that we've drawn.
Is there such thing as a triple IPA? That's a good question.
I think we're all different
Slowly
these days.
falling off the wall.
Hopped barley wine.
Hey, Anheuser-Busch and Estrella Jalisco are releasing foil-topped cans.
Oil topped?
Yeah, so the top of the can doesn't get dirty. So then you can just open
Just
the can.
mouth it.
And, yeah.
Mouth for it. Good for them. Foil everywhere.
So, often overlooked factor of the can holders that you get on craft beer cans, the plastic ones. Nice that they're reusable. Like you can be like, all right, we didn't drink 3 of these. Snap them back in.
True.
Can't do that with a regular one. I like how craft beer sites cover every Bud Light ad campaign. Like, this will make everyone mad.
It's
Honestly, if I look at like Reddit's Our Beer, those stories are like the top upvoted, like by a fucking huge margin. And the whole thing is everybody patting each other on the back, like, those water beers taste like piss, right? Yeah, they do. God, fuck off. Like, I don't like Bud Light either, but
craft beer bubble. Everybody wants to ask. You think this is the bubble?
hey, so it's a bubble, right?
You think there's bubbles here now?
Bubbling, we're bubbling, right?
There's a bubble. There's going to be more buyouts. And there's a bubble.
You gotta get bought out, or you're gonna pop. George Lucas somehow. A bubble, bubble, power of myth.
Hop take. Hop take.
In beer news that nobody gave a shit about, Cold Spring got bought out.
I don't even know what that is.
Cold Spring?
Phil.
Well, I guess it's kind of normal now, but they had those big ass fucking cans.
I'm not going to the anniversary, Phil.
Minnesota or something?
Who's anniversary?
Stones.
I was gonna say, John's kind of mad at
Y'all know where I stand with Stone at the moment.
I actually got an invite for their anniversary party.
That's the goddamn
Are
problem.
you got?
I swear to God.
Mm.
I turned it down.
Oh, you have to be
They have
quick in there.
here's the thing, they have a new marketing department.
You know how big their marketing department was before the new CEO came in?
I knew it was a revolving door.
30 people.
Holy fuck.
You know how big it is now? 4.
Yeah.
30 people.
That does seem like more of a right size.
Yeah, that's all you really need.
What the fuck were they doing?
It's like one guy's job was to run the website, and they're like, "Any updates today? Nope, we're good."
They probably have
all right.
one guy. Well, marketing for breweries is a little different because
I know.
they have people who are, specializing in the laws of each state.
30 people, though?
Yeah.
That's quite a bit.
So,
You got an invite for their anniversary, huh?
I sure did.
Well, they don't give media invites because all the money goes to charity, so you have to pay for your own ticket. That's what they told me over the last 7 years.
I never
Fuck Stone.
asked. Hashtag.
Stop sending me beer, Stone.
Yeah, I got a Wood
I'm gonna
Stout, and that was
get
awesome.
off their fucking media list. It's a bunch of bullshit.
I'll take the.
The Wood Stout was disgusting.
I'll change the address to your house then.
Wood Stout has always been.
It's fucking shitty.
I'm not buying their beer anymore. They're fuck them.
I don't know. I don't buy their beer much, not for any like moral imperative.
Yeah, I just don't buy
It's
Stone.
just, like there's better beer for a better price on the shelf.
What about all your
Pisses me off.
what do you call those beers?
What's that,
The Berlin beers.
I already paid for those.
Yeah,
Those are my
You're gonna
beers.
pick them up.
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm not going to leave them there.
Fuck Stone. You can keep your goddamn beer.
Well, if I could get my money back, I would, but I can't.
For sure.
So I'm gonna go get my
I totally
beer.
forgot. When I was down there, and I was like, I wonder if I have a beer to pick up.
I have
yeah, from
one.
October.
I
I got the Maui one.
have the.
How about the
Ale
ones that
Smith
weren't
one, but
hoppy?
I don't think it came out yet.
I don't know. I got the brewery one and the what's the other one? The Hawaii one. Maui. It was like a coconut porter. Sounded good.
Maui Wowie.
Sounds good, everybody.
Greg got an invite for the Stone anniversary party.
I sure did.
That's amazing. We don't have a media list. What's that with the full pint on it? Oh, don't look at that. Okay. I'm done.
Everybody must get stoned. Do we have a bottle opener over here?
Right here, right here.
The opener's on the table.
There you go. Let's talk about beer, baby. Let's talk about you and me. Let's talk about all the hops and all the malt that make me go
How was it
pee.
hanging out with Fat Mike?
It was cool. He was a nice guy.
Yeah, he's a really nice guy.
Yeah, we chatted for a while.
He's a smart dude, too.
Yeah, he seemed really
I
on
was
top
like, I
of
wish there
everything.
was someone here who's just a real big fan of the band. I just,
Yeah, if only.
You know, if
He's
there
like,
was, I would just.
have you seen John Holzer around?
Best friend.
Should have been like, you remember that guy John Holzer you peed next to in Japan at that one show? He'd be like, yeah, no.
He had a tiny dick.
2 inches. It's like an
That's why
acorn.
I remember him to this day.
It was like acorn with a little notch in the front. No, he was cool, man.
Cool. So we have topics. Do you have a shared thing for topics? Or are you just going to...
Who's that?
I've spent most of my life living in a gangster's paradise.
Oh my god.
That was weird.
When I was driving through Amish country out of my vacation, I'm all hold on, let me put on a song. I put on fucking Weird Al's
Amish Paradise.
Amish Paradise. Oh my god, so good.
That fucking, I think it was for like beef jerky or something. There's a commercial where these guys broke down and they got a ride from Amish people. And there's like, you guys don't have the internet, right? And he's like, no. And then like, is that weird? He's like, no, I just get pictures of your mother in the mail. Just like,
Nice.
I was like, that was great.
That's a fucking joke.
Fucking Amish thing.
Do you guys want a pit bull pup?
Yeah, I'm
Dolly.
killing dogs.
Yeah.
I've got my old helper. He's a breeder.
Mr. Worldwide.
He's got some. I'll put him on the thing. Those are his puppies. Oh, you can't see him. Hold on.
How do you guys feel about Rick and Morty?
At first I was like,
Rick's kind of an asshole.
I don't
But,
watch.
you know, Morty, he has no friends. So he's just going along for the ride.
I can't figure out Morty's character. Like sometimes he's a tiny little weakling. Sometimes he like, you know, he's like he does the right thing, and other it's like all the other characters are pretty well fleshed out, except one of the characters in the title of the show.
I think you're overthinking it, man. Just watch the show.
Yeah. Well, I'm only like
You're
five.
stoner,
I'm
right?
only like 5 episodes deep.
Yeah, it took me a while. The second half of the first season is better than the first. I haven't watched beyond the first season though. I have the second season. Maybe I'll do that tonight.
I haven't watched any.
People always like freak out about it, and like me and Cass like cartoons a lot.
It's
and so.
way too popular. Like, and the people who like it are the worst.
That's exactly like why like we didn't want to watch it in the first place. Was
Hold on.
like Rick and Morty fans.
Yeah, Rick and Morty fans are the fucking worst.
Yeah.
Hi.
Yeah, that's the only way you can do it.
Boom, 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 boom.
Yeah, like that. I guess you gotta do it. You gotta do it. You're gonna last forever.
What the fuck?
This is used to mix the beat. You drag it all the way to the right.
Ah.
Walking down the street in my boom boom.
Okay, Jason, we're on YouTube too, so
Back in the day. That's what I'm talking about. I'm Fat Five Freddy.
Let us know if the YouTube stream goes down.
It was just a sample.
Discord chatters.
Let's get ready to talk about beer.
Somebody. Oh, man.
Welcome to Fort Brewers. My name is Matt Becker, and as always, I'm joined by
John Holzer.
Jason Harris.
Greg Nagels right here.
Thank you, Greg. We're doing a bunch of fun stuff on the show today. We also kind of wanted to. There's been a lot going on in the world of beer lately.
Very topical.
Yeah, so we wanted
You know
to
what we
talk
thought?
about some topics.
The world needs to know our opinions on beer goings on.
Hot
Exactly.
topic.
Hot topic.
So you know, there's some breweries that are getting bought. You guys.
That's pretty much all the news.
Yeah, somebody get.
We should drink some beer while talking about these subjects.
Beers in front of us.
Yeah, we're just gonna pick some.
I see a monkish beer there. How about that
the
monkish
Oscar
beer?
Blues
right there?
Brew House Special Pale Ale?
That's a
Okay.
rad looking can.
That's a
Let's
thing.
talk about that.
It's a monkish beer though.
Yeah, we'll drink the monkish beer, man.
Remember when Sella was like the beer that
Yeah,
we all fucking
Selah.
jizzed?
Stella.
Selah.
from monkish.
Oh yeah. Fuck yeah.
Remember
that beer
that
was
fucking
amazing.
beer? Jesus Christ.
So
Fucking fantastic.
We need
let's
that in
start with some interesting brewery news. This is California specific, so sorry if you're not here, but a couple Sacramento area breweries closed in the last couple weeks. Rubicon, who's actually fairly big. They had
30
distros-
years old.
distro throughout the state, and another brewery called American River both closed out. And in general, I guess we're used to hearing about acquisitions, right? So in any brewery closing down, everyone, is this the bubble? Is this it?
the bubble?
It's
Is it the bubble bursting?
The
Yeah.
bubble's fucking bursting, man.
Yeah. Well, I mean, admittedly, we are at a record all-time high for breweries, and so like there had to be a thinning happening at some point, right?
I
I
think
agree.
I think what we're seeing, and no offense to anybody who works at Rubicon or American River or whatever, but you're seeing a lot of these breweries that have been getting by on being good enough for a long time and not great, and now they are competing with beer that's good and great, and it's hard to be just default like, oh, we're a craft brewery, so buy our brown ale, you know?
Yeah, like a lot of it. Well, at least in like from my understanding of Rubicon, like they were, you know, one of the like old school stalwarts of this wave of craft, and they made solid beer, and they made essentially the same beer for 30 years.
Yeah.
And that doesn't really work, you know. It's there. I think I remember like seeing conversation about it and seeing a lot of people saying, "Well, just because they're not making a juicy IPA doesn't mean they should fail." It's like, yes, that's true, but if your IPA recipe is the same for 30 years and you don't make another IPA that's keeping up with the times, you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot.
This is all speculation on our point.
Yeah,
too.
yeah,
Like,
that's
we've never
that's
had
definitely
beers
true.
From Rubicon or any of these breweries.
I did have beers from Rubicon
did?
years ago.
I've had
okay.
them.
and
Well, I tried them at the
There was no
Sacramento
point.
Craft Beer Summit last year. I was like, I wonder what the beer's like, because God, I haven't had it in at least a decade.
Yeah.
You know, and it was okay.
yeah, this thing
Nothing-
is fine.
So I'm wrong. All right.
and
I
it
have never
wasn't
had their
horrible.
beers. So
and I actually did the research and looked up on Untapped their average ratings, and they were pretty below average for both those breweries.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know, low 70s average rating. Comparatively, when I looked at other local breweries, they were doing a lot worse. And while it's sad to see anybody lose their job and anywhere close, if you're making beer that people don't like, those are the places that should be closing.
To me, it kind of brought up the question of how do you simultaneously stick to your guns and not ignore shifting consumer taste? You know, because I mean, you can still make, you know, your flagship beers for as long as you want, but if because of that you're also stagnant, then that's a problem. And so how do you deal with that? How do you deal with wanting to make your flagship products and then not wanting to chase trends, but also wanting to stay current?
I think you have to do one thing, and that's always get better.
Yeah.
Whether it's better design on your cans, whether it's reaching new audiences, you have to really, and also better quality beer. Focus on the beer quality, number one, and then see that will attract a new audience. You know,
Yeah, well,
always get better.
it's kind of an old business thing that if you're not growing, you're shrinking.
It's very true.
Look at what Stone Brewing Company did. Like they had their Stone IPA, the Black IPA, the Sublimely Self-Righteous, their Pale Ale. They basically got rid of all of that and redesigned all the recipes, rebranded everything to keep it current or fresh. Maybe it's not current, but at least it's fresh. It's not the same old stuff that beer drinkers drank 10 years ago. It's something new for people with changing palates in the craft beer scene.
At the end of the day, too, you're in a business, right? If Dad's IPA recipe doesn't sell anymore, then maybe you should axe Dad's IPA. I don't care if you've been making it for 20 years. Like, if you're not selling that beer anymore, why the fuck are you making it? Like, these some sentimental attachment because, we've been making it that way since 88 or whatever.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of in between because, like, I do think that there is value in still brewing Dad's IPA. But you're right. If it's not selling, then why is it 60% of your volume? You know what I mean? You can still make it every once in a while because people like it and still Dad's IPA. But if you make, Dad's this Son's IPA, and Son's IPA with, Citra sells way better than fucking A,
Yeah, look at DBA for an example. That's one of those beers that declines year over year, and it hasn't hit an upswing. And Firestone Walker recently got rid of a few, really popular beers like Double Jack. One of my favorite double IPAs.
Double Jack and Opal, the dark horse of our Saison.
Delicious. Yeah. Good beers, good quality. I think they were innovative. They were ahead of their time, maybe.
But they rotted on the shelf in a lot of places.
Yeah, Wookie Jack, same thing.
And I think David Walker himself hit the nail on the head. He said, us as craft brewers are kind of doing ourselves a disservice by being so creative and so innovative that people owe new things.
It's the novelty trap, like that's honestly, I think that's one of the biggest problems with craft beer. It's not necessarily a problem, but it's one of the...
It's a conundrum.
It's a huge conundrum because, fucking people have been buying Bud Light and Bud Light has been the same for 40 years. The big guys don't really have to worry about that. They put out new products quite a bit, but their
new SKUs,
their brands are still the
new can size,
vastly the bulk of their output, with... Like you said, like Stone, they changed those recipes for a reason because they weren't selling anymore.
It's a different game with a different consumer. You with your light lager drinker, you would get a guy who I drink Coors Light and he drank that for life. You know?
Yeah, exactly.
And if anything even slightly differed from Coors Light, it was like, no, fuck this.
But I know people who literally said the words, "I'm a Miller Lite man."
Yeah.
Period.
And I think
brand.
This generation of people and this generation of beer drinkers is very different, Yeah. And I always look to coffee when I'm thinking about all this stuff because I think coffee has gone through a very similar arc, just ahead of craft beer.
Yeah.
30 years ago, everyone drank fucking Folgers and whatever the gas station had.
Yep.
And that was fine. Coffee was coffee. They drank the same shit every day, didn't really want much out of it. And then people started getting more discerning about it. And now you've got a gajillion fucking varietals of coffee.
Honestly,
wine in the 70s was all Ripple.
Yeah. Honestly, the one of the main reasons that I got into beer was because I got into coffee first. Coffee was the first thing that I drank where I tasted something in something else. You know what I mean? Someone's like, "Doesn't this smell like cherries?" And I'm like, "Oh my God, it does." Yeah, that was a revelatory experience for me.
And I think the baby boomer generation, especially, the food of the American baby boomer generation was it's a weird food generation. People were very into bland,
with a K,
processed, mass-produced food. Not just beer, not just anything. Craft cheese and
blandness.
Wonder Bread.
Look at a recipe book from the 60s. It's just like, what is this shit?
Yeah, my fucking my ex-wife is a boomer and she was the same way. Like the blander the better, which always we didn't jive with that.
Yeah,
among other things. But I'm like, "Hey, try this thing that has a lot of flavor," and she'd be like, "Sure does have a lot of flavor. I'm gonna have my Keurig coffee."
Yeah.
Oh God.
And so it's a definite mentality shift for sure.
And I think people as a whole, they want
she was actually
more.
Gen X, but whatever.
They want more. I was gonna say, I was like,
Yeah, no, she wasn't a boomer. She had Gen X, but still, it was the same. It was
65 years young.
It was the same. It
I'm
was
like,
still the
wow,
same.
your ex-wife was
mentality.
like 60. Wow,
No, that's crazy.
But yeah, I think as a
She's pretty
whole,
hot for 60.
the younger generations, millennials are killing shitty food.
That's a good point, man.
Yeah, it's true.
Millennials are, imagine the beer world in 5 years, 10 years, 15, 20 years. There's going to be a lot of different flavored. Like when my daughter gets to a point, my daughter eats oysters.
Yeah,
She can drink beers that I pour, and she's like, well, it smells like pineapple. I'm like, you're 10. You get it. It's amazing.
Well, yeah,
that
I mean,
generation 10 years from now is going to be crazy.
yeah. The girlfriend's son, he eats octopus.
Raw
Fucking
octopus.
loves it.
We'll go get poke.
Squid and octopus.
Yeah.
It's like, man, I
Like
wouldn't even.
raw squid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
From poke bowls.
Not fucking around.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that.
It's delicious.
Rubbery.
Is anyone getting like a smokiness off of this beer? I'm not fond of this at all.
I thought it tasted like an old IPA.
Yeah.
it did. Exactly. Yeah.
Well, you know what else is old? Oktoberfest.
I just drank a 6-pack of those a couple days ago.
Jason, don't open that. It's too soon. It's too soon.
Okay, God
Too
damn it.
soon.
Oktoberfest
October, yeah.
beers is not even.
Jesus Christ.
This is another good news.
What's
worthy
next?
discussion
Christmas
right
beer
here.
in October?
It's fest
Yeah,
beer.
if you are listening to this show and you complain about a beer from X season coming out Y, go fuck yourself.
Yeah.
Punch yourself in the dick. Like,
I
hey,
agree, except with pumpkin beer.
No, who cares? I'm not going to buy it no matter when it's on the shelf.
True.
But I'm not going to get mad that I have the option to buy it.
Speaking of pumpkin beer, we have one pumpkin beer.
I don't
here, so-
understand. Yeah, we
Gross.
have a. I don't understand how people can get so offended at being given the opportunity to purchase something.
Yeah.
Like, don't buy it.
Yeah, honestly, you know what
If
I
Christmas
you know what I think it
decorations
is?
go on the shelf right now, I will say, I don't want Christmas decorations right now, and I will move on with my life. I don't sit here and be like, they're putting Christmas in the summer? What am I supposed to do?
You know what? When I see Christmas decorations,
You gotta use that voice again. That hurt my head.
Did you punt yourself in the dick?
when I go to Home Depot or Target and I see Christmas decorations in November or like early October, I get excited for Christmas. I'm like, oh, it's that time where they start putting shit out early again. And that's where it ends. Because who cares? It's a store. You don't
Yeah.
live there. Fuck you,
Yeah,
man.
exactly. It's like, oh, but they have this in the store, and I'm not ready to buy it yet. Then wait a month, and it'll still be there.
My favorite season for beer is fall because I've loved German lagers and I love, they're usually fresh on the shelf. So I buy the shit and drink the shit out of all these beers. And to see this on the shelf now, I'm like, yes.
Oh, I bought it and I drank it that day.
Yeah. Oh,
I'm not
so
going to sit
good.
on it until, when Oktoberfest starts.
When I was at Sierra Nevada, I was like, it's July. They already have Oktoberfest? Fuck yeah. I love Oktoberfest.
It's perfect
Oktoberfest
summer
is
weather
delicious.
beer, dude.
Yeah, it is. It really is, right?
So other beer news. Modern.
Hang on a second, real quick. Like we touched on the Rubicon and being like an old brewery, but then the other brewery that in Sacramento that closed was relatively new, right?
Yeah, they're only a couple years old.
American River.
2012.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I got the feeling from them that they are the type of brewery that opened and they're like, we've got a pale ale, a brown ale, an IPA, and a wit beer.
Well, to counter that, Blank Slate was also announced closing that same week, and they're from Cincinnati, Ohio. And when they announced they were closing, like it was shock from their fans that I saw online. They were like, "Why? Like you guys make great beer." So to counter the American River thing, we haven't heard anything about American River, and no one really came out online saying anything positive about them. It was just kind of like, "Oh, they closed, okay." And so maybe they were like a mediocre, middle of the road kind of brewery. But Blank Slate was a brewery that people seemed to like a lot, and they closed in the very same fashion. They said, we're done, we're ceasing operation, and that's that. And I saw people saying, hey, I'm going out to buy their beer because like it's the last time I can get it. This sucks. So it's hard to say what causes this.
Right. Well,
comes down to
the blank.
business.
Well, the blank slate thing that the owners actually put out if I believe I have this right, the owners put out a statement and they're like, we ran out of money. Like
Okay.
we were struggling. We figured out how to make it work over time, but we just ran out of money. We couldn't bring in enough money.
I mean, there's those breweries that do fine in a smaller model, and then they try to overextend in a short period of time.
That's the thing. Speaking of which, talking about some other big California beer news, when you are doing well and then you decide to expand and you invest a ton of money and you can't start getting revenue in after the expansion, that's a huge problem.
You're talking about Magnolia.
That's Magnolia. Yeah. Because Magnolia,
I don't recall having any Magnolia beer before.
They don't make it down here.
Yeah, they were brew pub. Like they're in Haight-Ashbury, and the majority of their stuff was brewed
like British style.
Excuse me, out of there. Yes, and then they opened like a barbecue restaurant with like a 30-barrel brew house. And there was it got delayed for a little while, and so they just started getting super cash strapped. And then New Belgium bought them because I guess they were in a position.
A weird coalition of New Belgium.
Dick Cantwell.
Dick Cantwell, who was the owner of Elysian that got pissed off that they sold
that
and
told
left.
them to fuck themselves.
Yeah, the true believer in the whole craft beer thing. And New Belgium.
No, it's New Belgium, Dick Cantwell, and Oud Beersel.
Beersel, yeah.
I didn't mention Beersel. Sorry. There's also talk that Beersel is going to start doing lambic blends with Magnolia.
Sweet. Yeah, Beersel is going to be shipping their lambic to the United States, which sounds really iffy as far as quality goes. I mean, it's just as far as like letting
what's
lambic
going to be worse than what they
travel?
do with lambic in the regular fermentation process.
No, seriously. Yeah.
Have you guys had their beers?
They fill a dumpster.
Beersel?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Weren't they in our goose showdown?
Yeah, and they did well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, all right.
Beersel Goose is one of the best gooses that you can buy just like straight off the shelf in a lot of places.
Oh.
But yeah,
that's one of the buyouts that makes people like us happy because it's all breweries that we love buying another brewery that we love, and everyone's happy, and money is just flowing between these breweries, and it's all good.
Another one that made me happy. This is about a month ago now, but Modern Times announced that they are shifting to an employee ownership. I think they started with
they did
30% or something, and they're trying to get the whole business employee owned. And I think we're wording more and more about ownership, and I think we're going to talk a bit about that more on these other stories.
yeah.
But I appreciate breweries that are going towards that model. Like New Belgium does that too. They're the employee owned.
Yeah, I mean, Modern Times has been making it really, really hard for me to dislike them because I wanted to for a long time, and then they keep doing all this cool stuff, and I'm like, nah, you guys are.
I've given up. I've given up. I just fine. They're great. They're a great brewery.
Yeah.
Jacob is the man. And,
you guys are cool.
Okay.
I've chatted with Jacob a few times over email over various things, and he's been nothing but forthcoming and awesome to deal with. So
yeah,
they
what
had
happened in the past?
Yeah,
is
they
in
had
the past
some
now.
rough quality issues that they've pretty much gotten over at this point.
Yeah,
that was their first year.
I guess he chews with his mouth open.
That was later on, and then they were like, "Oh, but it's this thing that's obviously not true."
Yeah, but again, it's all small
that was a while
potatoes
ago.
It's
at
gone.
this point. Yeah.
They've corrected issues.
That's pretty cool, though. That's the New Belgium model. They're 100% employee owned too, and I mean they're a great brewery overall.
Yeah.
As far as their ethics are concerned, and their beer. Even though Jason's not a fan of the Voodoo Ranger series.
Did you say Voodoo Ranger?
I did.
Okay, what the fuck, New Belgium?
Well, let's explain what Voodoo Ranger is.
Can somebody explain?
Can you explain what it is?
Okay, so
I don't know what it is.
Initially, it was their IPA,
which was Ranger,
a branded thing.
Yeah.
Ranger IPA was their IPA for a long
maybe
time.
Ranger died,
and then Voodoo Ranger came
Voodoo
about.
brought it back. I don't know.
I don't know. I don't follow these things.
Their Twitter account's great. It's very similar to the Wendy's account, where they're very kind of
snarky,
real and snarky. Yeah, it's pretty cool. But so it was an IPA series for a while, I guess. I've never bought any of the Voodoo Ranger beers.
Never heard.
Same.
Of
But then they came out with a pumpkin beer.
Yeah, so Voodoo Ranger has been out for maybe a year or two. It's relatively new when it comes to New Belgium, but they have 3 beers called Voodoo Ranger IPA, Voodoo Ranger Imperial IPA, and Voodoo Ranger 8 Hop Pale Ale. Now already, why? Just come up with 3 names. Why are you calling them all the same thing? They're not the same. Are they the same beer? but they're not. They're just 3 different beers.
What's the
that are-
common thread?
Yeah.
It seems
I
like
guess
it's-
they're all hoppy beers, right?
It seems like it's
Alright.
like the arrogant brewing thing where Stone is making a separate brand for those beers for some reason.
All right.
But they also, so New Belgium also came out with an IPA like 2 years ago called Citradelic or Citraholic.
Citradelic.
Good IPA, right? It's IPA with like tangerine or some shit in it. So then I was at the store and I see a Citradelic with a green label, and I'm like, oh, that's interesting. A new Citradelic variant. Nope, completely different beer.
Yeah,
Exotic lime ale, called the same thing, slightly different color, completely different beer. What the fuck are you doing? Why do you have 2 beers called Citradelic? I guess they both have citrus in them, but who gives a fuck?
Yeah, it's
I don't know, man.
Their branding is a bit confusing. Not to mention, like, there's like a lot of variation in the labels now, and it seems just very for a brewery that's that large and whose branding was so cohesive for such a long time. It all seems kind of throwing against the wall to see what sticks at this point. Which,
So on that note, we have special release Voodoo Ranger Atomic Pumpkin Beer. Pumpkin ale featuring cinnamon, habanero, chili peppers, and just the right amount of heat. So the Voodoo Ranger IPA series
dude,
now has a cinnamon pumpkin beer in it.
I hear this description and it makes me want to punch myself in the dick.
I'm
Just
just
like,
like,
this is like
why
everything
is
that
this-
I can't stand.
Why
about
is this beer called Voodoo Ranger? I guess Voodoo Ranger is supposed to be their like edgy beers or something.
He's a guy in the brewery that just hangs out and he wears a mask and he's like, voodoo.
Oh, and also, have you guys
I'm
ever
gonna
heard? You guys ever heard of Old Aggie Superior Lager?
No,
I have no idea what that is.
By whom?
By New Belgium.
by Menon.
I have
I'm gonna
not.
pour a very
Johnson, you've got a gift.
This beer sounds good to me, and I'm pouring heavy. So fuck y'all.
It
Fuck
smells
you all.
like a pumpkin muffin.
A pumpkin muffin.
Yeah, pumpkin bread muffin.
That sounds gross.
Oh no, it doesn't. Shut up. You would devour a pumpkin muffin right now.
I don't like pumpkin stuff. I don't like pumpkin pie. I don't like pumpkin nothing.
It does smell very bready, and I like it.
Whatever.
Very
The
bready.
smell.
It needs more.
Yeah, honestly,
habanero.
it smells like coffee cake. This is what it smells like.
Coffee
to me.
cake, yeah.
I
It needs
can't
more-
smell the pumpkin. That's a plus.
Or like banana bread.
Yeah.
I don't hate it.
Yeah, it's actually pretty good.
Wouldn't drink a liter of it.
Good.
Pumpkin bread is a very good tell on this, but then it has like a little spicy heat.
I do get the cinnamon and the habanero on the back of my throat.
It's not excessively cinnamoned, which
Yeah.
I appreciate.
Oh, that's good. I really like this. Greg does not.
This beer's surprisingly
It's
good.
okay.
I'm not.
I'm over it already. One sip.
Yeah,
I like,
exactly.
I
Same.
like pumpkin beers. I'm sorry.
Same.
Like, why do I have to hate pumpkin beers?
You don't have to
You don't
hate
have
pumpkin
to.
beers.
I feel like I
Whatever
have
you
to because
like.
everybody seems to hate them, but
John, you
breweries
don't have to
still
do what
make
other
them.
people do.
You don't have
I mean,
to.
it's basic, bitch,
You don't
but you
have
know.
to.
Wow.
Snap. No, I'm not. I just don't like them. It doesn't hit me in a happy spot.
Now I'm a basic bitch.
Hashtag basic bitch.
You can have a different
Basic
opinion.
beer
That's why
bitch.
there's 4 of us.
Exactly.
I like it.
Otherwise, it would just be one brewer.
It does have that coffee cake feel. Yeah, the cinnamon.
Sorry.
I really like that cinnamon, like
Yeah,
baked.
I think
bread
that beer's
thing.
surprisingly good. They need to call it something else. Stop calling beers Voodoo Ranger. I don't know what the fuck this is about, but just kill it.
I
Yeah.
agree with you there. I don't
Come
know
up
why
with a
it's
new
called
name.
Voodoo Ranger.
Yeah. As far as like, that's one of the best expressions of cinnamon in beer that I've had in a really long time.
Yeah, it's not tannic.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't like bake your mouth.
It tastes like baked goods.
I got to say that habanero is a nice, flair because you
Yeah.
do get that burn on the back, but you don't taste it.
Yeah, it was too sweet for me though. Like,
well.
I could use some more dryness.
Yeah.
So before we jump into talking about buyouts, we kind of touched on this in the other podcast, but let's talk about the independent craft beer label.
So
So
Yeah.
for
Greg,
So,
you
Greg,
wrote an article that you got paid.
I don't wanna-
Substantially for.
Yeah, we don't want to say numbers on there.
I'll start. I'll start that again.
So yeah, I wrote a thing for this website called the Equipped Brewer. They're like a trade publication in New York, and they hit me up for articles every now and then, and I'm always happy to write because they pay well.
Send them my way, by the way.
Yeah, go to John Holzer.
I know how to type.
Yeah. And they're like, "What? Can you write an opinion piece on the new independent seal that the Brewers Association just put out?" And I was like, "Yeah, that sounds good." A lot of people weighed in really quickly. Like that day when that news hit.
Mm-hmm.
And it was nice to let it kind of digest and watch kind of how the breweries adopted it and really get a feel for what the breweries thought of it. And I was really surprised to see that a lot of breweries were like poo-pooing it, not only just for the design aspect of it, but implementing anything on a label is going to cost a brewery X amount of dollars to redesign their labels,
Right,
and blah,
right.
blah, blah. And,
Well, I know we talked about this internally on our private chat, and
Flying Dog threw a bitch fit about it.
Well, they're flying.
Flying Dog can fuck themselves.
Yeah, right there with you, buddy.
Pretty much.
They're just basically like, you just censor, or no, was it that? No, it wasn't. Especially the independent craft beer thing. It was just
They
them
left the
being
BA
like,
too.
Yeah,
hissy fit.
That's right. It was a different story.
It was,
It's not about
it
this.
was a different story, but still, like essentially the BA was like, we don't want you putting our gold, our GABF metal logos on a label with a dog vagina.
yeah,
Same
We're
reason.
not
And they're
okay
just
with
like,
that. And they're
"My
like,
freedom!"
You're censoring us. Like, no, asshole. No, go fuck yourself.
No, we're just not associating with you if you want to make an offensive label.
Yeah.
And it's the same fucking, like, everyone's just like, my freedoms. No, no one's saying you can't say it. They're just saying they don't want to associate with you if you do something asshole-ish.
Yeah. So, but
fucking asshole.
As far as like the independent label thing goes, like, did you guys watch that video?
I did from the BA.
The AB did?
Yeah, the AB
No,
did.
I don't. I try not to watch that.
That is
cringy
one reason I do love the label, because of the reaction from the high end, the AB dudes.
Yeah.
What I was going to
They
say,
were really concerned about it. But
I mean,
I'm like,
because
yes.
we talked about what independent actually is, and the Brewers Association has a definition for, what a craft brewery is. You have to be less than 25% owned by an alcohol industry member.
But you can be owned by anybody else.
Yeah. There's a limit to how much you can brew, and there's a third one. You have to use artisanal.
The limit is like
ingredients
10% more than whatever Sam Adams did last
but
year.
it's funny because they actually changed the ingredient thing too. Like, it used to be that you had
fit
to
in
have
Yingling.
you used to have an all malt flagship,
traditional.
but they changed that to include Yingling because
It would have
Yingling
also
But-
excluded Russian River.
What we focused on the most, though,
Pliny
was
the Elder has sugar in it.
what we focused on the most was the percentage of the brewery that's owned by someone else, basically.
Yeah.
And the first brewery that came to mind, because when this was announced, we were in the middle of talking about the brewery from Placentia being purchased, a majority stake by a private equity holder. It's like, well, they're no longer craft. And Greg, that's the first thing you said. Is like, well, they're no
I'm
longer
like, did
craft.
they qualify?
And I was like, they're still craft, because if you look at the definition, it says you have to be, it's an alcohol industry member. You know what I mean?
But I'm like, how are they independent?
The definition
though?
is very carefully written. The thing is, if you start excluding breweries that have a bunch of private equity money in them, that's Dogfish Head, that's Oscar Blues, that's a lot of the large regionals. Brooklyn is actually one of the topics I wanted
They're
to
owned
touch
by
on.
Kieran.
Brooklyn is exactly enough owned by a foreign brewery to qualify as craft.
Like
It's 24.5%. They literally towed right up to the line.
Which also leads to another story, but I don't know if we'll get to that. But
Private equity kind of worries me because, private equity wants a return on their money within a shorter period of time than maybe another brewer entity. I think they're within 5 to 6 years, they're going to want to see their money. And if not, look at what happened to Anchor,
Which, worth noting, that was one of the topics we talked about.
now we're backed up 2 stories.
Yeah, that's fine. Anchor,
But it's all,
I'm just saying
it
there's
all
so much
revolves
news.
around this thing, though.
Yeah.
Anchor was sold in 2010. Everyone forgot it.
Yeah.
They
Griffin
were
Group or
sold.
They were also sold in like 1973.
Yeah.
And before that, they had been sold like 7
But
times.
2010 was a private equity thing.
But 2010 was when Fritz Maytag, the big figurehead and founder, was like, we're done, and they sold completely to an equity brand that owns chunks of chunks of BrewDog.
Which BrewDog
And-
came out and said that is no longer a thing.
Yeah.
Like they
Now that everyone knows about it, they're like, oh no, we're still punk. No, we're canceling that now. The last 7 years have been good, but now we're canceling it.
The reason why
they came out and said officially, like, look, the amount of shares that Anchor had in our company that was sold a while ago, so we weren't part of this whole thing. Talk shit on BrewDog all you want, but as a business, they came out and officially said this is where we're at now. So
the other
Yeah,
reason people
it's-
didn't make a huge stink was the private equity that bought Anchor in 2010 was a local San Francisco company.
Yeah.
So there wasn't like, oh my God, there's foreign
This leads to
like
a bigger discussion, though, about okay, so technically the brewery is still independent. Anchor was still independent, even though they're 100% owned, as far as we know, by a private equity company. Where it gets shady is, or where it gets blurry is, what happens within that. Like when you sell to a private equity company, what are they going to do with the brewery after that? And Anchor is a good example of that.
They have no control.
They decided to dump their shares, sell to a brewery, and they sold to Sapporo, and they're done with it. They made their money. Maybe they made their money. I don't know. But they're done with Anchor now.
What's
And
surprising was
that's what's scary about, especially like the brewery that we all love.
Yep.
What's going to happen because their equity holders have a majority stake in that company. And I still support the brewery. I've been Reserve Society since 2008. Is that the first year? I don't think I'm renewing, because why do they need my money anymore? I mean, they've got investors that give them a lot of money. I get it.
You sign up for the perks.
The perks aren't that great, though.
Man.
But I did it because I'm a fan of the brewery. I'm still a fan of the brewery, but if I can save $300 a month, I'm going to save $300 a month.
Yeah, for sure.
300. That's what I used to spend. $300 a year on the spending, money on the Reserve Society thing. I'm going to do that. But what's going to happen to the brewery in 5 years when these equity holders?
It almost feels like selling to equity is like a half step towards selling out. So then they're like, well, in 5 years when we sell out, it wasn't me that made the decision. It was that guy.
Yeah.
And
it was the other three.
It's a way to like wash your hands of it and still try to have some moral high ground.
What's surprising for me for Anchor was the dollar amount that the transaction was. It didn't seem like
$85 million.
$85 million.
It seemed like a small amount for what Anchor. I don't know.
Their production is actually really low.
That's the thing. Like Anchor has history. They don't have volume. They're not that big. They've been around for a long time.
And they don't.
But
they actually specifically asked the venture capital guy, whatever, the fucking equity guy. I forget the name of him, but somebody
Steve Equity
in an interview they asked him about that particularly, and he was like, I don't want to get into the details, but. He talked about one, Constellation took a big write down on Ballast Point. Basically, they overpaid for Ballast Point in a pretty large way.
So much for the B.
You think?
And then also he noted that they are a heritage brand and they are limited. Like they don't really have a lot of expansion capability.
Yeah,
where the potential is a lot of what they're paying for with Ballast Point. Right? They can maybe build now Ballast Point East or whatever, and fucking. But Anchor can't really do that, right? Their brand is very tightly catered to. This is San Francisco beer made in San Francisco.
Yep.
So
yeah, that's the thing. Like whenever I'm up there, it's like, oh, no, I gotta have an Anchor Steam.
Yeah.
You know?
Anchor Steam's arguably in a lot of restaurants at a lot of beers, like Samuel Adams or Anchor Steam, and like these older school high-end restaurants that have,
in California, at least.
In California, yeah. I don't know about back east.
Going back to the independent label, though, so that was our first discussion in our private chat, and I think the broader discussion online is about how it actually looks, which I don't think we should spend a lot of time on. It's fine for what it is. I mean, it's the way it's presented. If you don't know that it's supposed to say independent, you might be a little confused at first because it says independent, like in 3 separate lines. But I think
we saw it today on labels for the first time. It actually looks kind of fine.
Well,
it looks fine.
What's happening with it, I think, is once you see it, it kind of gets burned into your brain, and you're like, oh, that's that thing. And so you see it on another bottle. That's that thing again, and then another bottle. So it doesn't really matter how it's designed. It's just as long as it is out there and people get saturated and they know what it looks like, that's all that matters.
Yeah. I think it's a good conversation piece for years to come. I think it'll grow and hopefully be more adopted as people phase out their old labeling. You know
I will say, though, the Trappist brewery seal looks way better.
Yeah, and that's
Chimay puts it on the neck of the bottle. That's how proud they are of that.
That was my example, is like when I was first getting into, imported beers and stuff, and I discovered that, I was like, wow, I wonder if I can find more Trappist. Where do I get more of these? Because that's amazing. And that whole experience of finding that, I think, led me down this, craft beer path.
But personally, I don't think it goes far enough. I realize that the BA is really trying to cater to the large regionals, but like Brooklyn should be out. like, I'm sorry, 24.5% sold to another brewery.
Well, there's a line and they didn't
and
cross
then an
it.
independent partnership with fucking with a Carlsberg beer, and then another partnership with another foreign brewery. It's basically they're like, we're gonna get our money involved with every foreign brewery in every way legally as
Distribution
far as we
deals.
possibly can without breaking this very specific rule that's completely arbitrary.
The other question that came up is Brooklyn went into a partnership with 21st Amendment and Funkworks, 21st Amendment from San
Francisco.
Well,
They're
San
like-
Leandro. How do you say
San
it?
Leandro.
Leandro? And then
A little bit of
Funkworks
San
from
Leandro.
Fort Collins. And 6 Point out of New York got involved in this thing too, basically saying, 25%, well, less than 25% technically of Brooklyn Brewery is owned by Kirin. So in a way, isn't Funkworks and 21st Amendment also owned by Kirin? And Brooklyn responded by saying, well, the Brooklyn part, like the Brooklyn Brewery part of the company bought or went into a partnership with 21st Amendment and Funkworks, not the Kirin part. And then someone went even further and said, well, what about Lagunitas buying a minority stake in Shorts Brewing? Because Lagunitas Holdings US bought that stake, even though now Lagunitas is 100% owned by Heineken.
Yeah.
So Heineken actually bought that. It's all business routing and
Machinations.
You know what I mean? At the end of the day, Heineken owns a minority stake in Shorts, and Kirin owns something in this partnership with 21st Amendment and Funkworks. I don't know how everything comes out in the wash, but it's people need to understand this is business, and I understand that the whole macro thing, that's something that I'm still adamantly against. Like, they are out there, especially ABI, the number one culprit of hurting craft brands and doing bad things in the market and doing, things that are illegal.
Pay for play.
Basically.
Like,
That's a whole thing, but it's getting really mucked up, it seems. And looking at the Magnolia thing shows how other craft breweries can band together and invest in a thing. At the same time, that Magnolia buyout was $2.7 million, where this Anchor thing, that's $85 million.
yeah.
I don't know how much was invested into Brooklyn. It's just one of those things where, okay, on a smaller scale, craft buying out craft works. But on a larger scale, where do you go? What do you do? I don't know. And I'm not a business person. I don't know. And it's you got to draw lines and figure out who you're going to support, who you're not going to support. And if you have to defend it, then figure it out. For
me, a big part of the romance of craft beer is a word a lot of people use is corporate beer, right? Big corporations, just industrial corporate beer. And we're watching a lot of the big craft breweries become corporate breweries. And a part of the romance of it is, being able to look at a brewery like Bell's, and the guy who started the brewery is the
is the loudmouth kind of an asshole who is out there with his brand, saying like, this is me, this brewery represents me. It's not like a faceless type of thing.
Right. We talk about, Sierra Nevada is a huge brand, but it's Ken Grossman's brewery. He controls it.
He owns 100% of it still.
Yeah, and Sierra Nevada's a perfect example. We talked about on the other show the sustainability stuff they do. And they do all that stuff even though it does not have a business payoff for them, because they think it's the right thing to do. And running a company that way has value to me. I think running your business, doing things the right way as opposed to the most profitable way, that essence is a big part of what people like about the craft beer world outside of the beer itself. So when you've got your brewery that's 24.5% owned by another large corporation, and then half owned by equity firm, and everything's being run like a corporation for maximum profit, you're not better. You're not better than AB. You're not, Can
I take a real quick left turn here too, where when did everyone stop getting offended by contracting? Remember when people hated the fact that, oh, you're a brewery, but you don't actually have a brewery? That's what Brooklyn does. Does anyone care? No, it's not even part of the conversation anymore. It's like the way that people are the things that people are upset about kind of shift over time.
Yeah.
You know, like no one cared the 21st Amendment was contracted for a really long time. That's not how it is now, but like, you know, the things that you do that either give or take away credibility shift over time. You know, and it's just that's like something that I think is kind of surprising that, you know, now people are kind of realizing all the complexities of ownership and how it's I don't think credibility is necessarily the word. It's somewhere like, you know, credibility, honesty, like
authenticity.
Authenticity. Thank you. That's exactly the word that I'm looking for. It's like, you know, how you define authenticity is shifting, you know, and it has since craft beer has started. And so I just that's
people have their own definition of authenticity as well.
Yeah, exactly. You know, like people are, you know, fine with Brooklyn, even though, like you said, they contract and they're, you know, almost a quarter owned by Karen, but people are just fine with them. It's like that's kind of it's a very fuzzy line, you know.
And the seal's a good start.
It's a good start. I really would like to see, like, especially when they're calling it independent. And when you're talking about, it's like, we're independent, but, you know, the same equity firm owns us and Southern Tier and, you know, like 4 other giant regional breweries.
Yeah.
You're independent? You know, like, independent of what?
I'm not sure.
And then that's the other thing, too, is Firestone Walker independent?
Yeah.
I consider
it's a good point.
Duvel a family-owned craft brewery.
Yeah, cool, but, like, they're still a very, very large company that is still has like corporate interests in mind, you know? And so again, it's like
their business.
They're still kind of a fuzzy line, you know?
I mean, even there's an argument to be made that even being publicly traded, you now are more beholden to the business interest of it than you are to whatever art.
Yeah, is Apple Computer
culture.
or Apple Incorporated an independent company?
Right, exactly.
I don't know.
Yeah,
and the problem
they have to make their shareholders happy, and that's affects a lot of what they.
And the problem we have
produce,
with a trade group like the Brewers Association, they can't just go out and offend Dogfish Head and Southern Tier and Oscar Blues and all the big regionals that bring in a bunch of money.
Yeah, who pay a large amount of dues, and not only that, but also do a lot of work for the BA. Like a lot of those breweries that you just mentioned, the people who own them are members of the board,
right,
at the BA. You know, I mean, fucking, how long has Sam Calagione been, you know, a member of the board? You know, long time.
One of the things, you know, the brewery in Placentia, I'm not sure 100% what the ownership is. I don't know if those details were disclosed in the deal, but one thing I overheard was that they're not a majority seat holder in the board anymore.
Yeah.
So how are you independent?
Yeah, exactly.
If that company wants to go, well, okay, we're going to can all your shit now.
In a general sense, they're not, in my opinion. But according to the Brewers Association's definition, they're independent.
Absolutely.
And I think their definition has too many loopholes in it to try to make exceptions for breweries that aren't independent.
It's very vague.
It's not vague. It's in fact very specific to allow breweries that aren't truly independent to portray themselves as such.
The specificity is the point.
The 25% is very specific.
Okay.
Why is it 25%? Why is it only beer companies that can own you? Like, those rules mean...
Well, I think they're focusing on initially, ABI, like, and they're battling them. That's ultimately what this comes down to, and macro breweries like them. And after 2 months of thinking about this and talking about it with you guys and reading articles and stuff, it's really complicated. And their ultimate goal is to help, breweries become better breweries.
Yeah,
give them
advocates.
Resources. Lobby for them to Congress. Like they play many roles, and coming up with definitions for independent or craft breweries, whatever you want to call them now. That's tough. And I think they're trying. They really are. You can't say that they're not trying, but they got to make so many different people happy. And, when these big regionals pull out of the BA, like, Flying Dog is one example. Okay, maybe it won't hurt them that bad, but what if Dogfish pulls out? What if Sierra Nevada pulls out?
Then they change their tune.
Then they have no power. and
I mean,
they're useless.
They've catered to like Boston beer.
I know, and so that's what I'm saying. They have to figure out how to make everybody happy and still define themselves as something that we need.
Credibility is a big part of the conversation here, though, right? And if you draw a line in the sand and then you move that line because, oh, well, now this guy doesn't fit that definition. So now we're going to change the definition to accept him. We're going to move the limit for craft beer because Sam Adams got too big.
Don't you think like technology plays a role in that too? Like it's easier for breweries to expand their business like compared to 30 years ago when you would need those big money injections, you know? I think they're evolving. I see what you're saying. They're moving the line, and I get it because they want to keep certain breweries craft and, you know, all that. But I think there's more to it. That's all I'm trying to say.
Like here's something that, like, at one point, John, you said you talked about how, you know, the ABI is the enemy, and I think that's an interesting point because, like, the BA kind of defines what they do, or they base what they do not around business in general. It's against ABI.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's why, you know, private equity is okay because it's not ABI.
Right.
You know?
And that's why they say if you're not an alcohol industry member, because you can't, if you are an alcohol industry member and you own more than 25%, then you're claiming to be independent, but also working against independent breweries at the same time. And so that's a conflict. Right. So if you own under 25% of a brewery and you're an alcohol industry member, they find that acceptable. And that's a compromise. I'm sure they'd love to have it to where you're owned, you know, it's fully independent. In a perfect world, you'd be fully independent. You're a thriving business and everything's good.
Yeah.
But that's not going to happen. And I think they're trying to, like I said, it's a hard job.
The thing is, though, like, it's just, like, it's like if all of a sudden the committee that runs the Trappist label is like, Pierre wanted to open a Trappist brewery in fucking Quebec, so you could be in Quebec now. It's just like, we're just going to move the rules because somebody wanted to change it. It's like, well, then what the fuck's the point? Like, why even have it?
Yeah, they're like, well, to be Trappist, you only need one Trappist monk to be there, yeah.
And then it's like, the whole point of something like that is giving a specific, an authenticity. And if you're just going to move the rules around so, you know, the people who don't qualify can now qualify just so they can. It's like they're borrowing authenticity that they didn't earn.
I think before when I said that their rules are vague, I meant they were simple. They're too simple. You said they provide a lot of loopholes, and I think me saying that the rules are, there's 3 rules. They're simple rules, but they're so wide open that there's a lot of room for discussion there, and that's where I think their job is difficult. I don't think it's a bad thing to always move the line or move it when it needs to be moved, depending on the industry and what's happening. But I mean, I'll never say anything bad about the Brewers Association because they're trying, and I know the people that work there, they're genuinely, you know, craft beer people. That's why they're doing this. You know, it's difficult.
I don't think disagreeing with what they're doing is bashing them as people. It's just saying,
no, I'm not saying. I didn't mean to come off that way. I'm just saying. I just think it's a really difficult job to define these.
I think if we're going to care about ownership, let's care about ownership. Let's not care about if you're owned by InBev or not. That they're not the only bad company in the world, and like behaving as though InBev is the only bad corporation in the world. If we care about corporate ownership, then care about corporate ownership.
But what
don't say
would be
every
your
other
suggestion to them?
corporation
Like,
can buy you out except InBev. You know, like only alcohol corporations are bad.
So should they make their rules like more defined,
or
like
maybe different
more structured?
levels? Well, here's the thing. There's the 3 big keywords that they always punch. It's small, that's debatable. Traditional, that's debatable. And independent, that's also debatable because it can, you know, any brewery, if Samuel Adams can be small, traditional, and independent, who the fuck? I mean,
who
come
isn't?
On, right?
I know.
And then the rules basically end up amounting to don't be owned by InBev. It's like, Okay, so if that's the case, then why don't we just call it the not InBev sign?
I wouldn't be opposed if they had different levels of independence, like if they had a red or green or a yellow independent label.
Honestly,
Like,
yeah.
For us, that makes sense, but for
Red,
the average
red
drinker,
if it was, owned by private equity or
drink
whatever.
with caution.
Yellow stands for, 25% owned by whatever, and green means fucking
They do
mom
have-
and pop
on
still
a-
run this thing.
On a lot of the other like voluntary certifications, you do have like grading, like a leveling of it, right? Like environmental certifications, you can be like, we're certified green at this level, but if we did XYZ, we would be fucking super green or whatever.
Okay, I can see that then.
Like super green. I don't know, but I don't like watching just all these lines being drawn, like specifically to help out the big breweries that are sitting in the gray area. And it feels like there's a lot being done to accommodate them, and they're not the ones that need help.
Correct.
But they have a lot of money, and
Yeah,
But they know who else has a lot of money? AB InBev. Like, so if having a lot of money makes you okay, then there you go.
No, for helping the Brewers Association.
Yeah, exactly. It's like they keep changing those because they're not adjusting to the industry; they're adjusting to their members,
right?
Which
and we're the consumers. We're consumer evangelists.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe
speak for yourself, man.
I would like to see.
That's
Maybe
what we're
it would
doing
be
right
cool
I'm in
if
the industry.
like a voluntary coalition of breweries created like a truly independent seal.
Yeah.
A actual independent seal that was managed externally.
Yeah, here's the thing: if you are an independent brewery and you want to put "I'm a fucking independent brewery" on your
Just
label,
say it.
nothing is stopping you from doing that.
That's true.
But I understand the seal, like it's a vetted thing,
Family owned, whatever.
ABI could say, "Yeah, we're independent."
Yeah,
Who
right.
gives a shit?
Yeah,
We're
exactly.
independent.
Putting some words
I mean,
on
we're
a
not
fucking
owned.
label.
We're not owned by the state.
I guarantee you.
In our definition, independent means that you are a private business. and
AB
it's
InBev
not
is-
owned by the state.
AB InBev is going to make a beer called Independence. I guarantee it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
They already named a beer
America.
Well, they
God,
just put
roll.
America on the Budweiser label.
You can
Still.
hear my eyes roll right now.
Yeah.
Just I can
Did
hear
you
'em.
guys hear Bud Light said something about craft beer again? Let's make sure we share that ad on Facebook.
Yes.
So we opened a beer.
It wasn't very good. I'm not going to talk about it.
Yeah. Are we going to open another one, or are we going to talk about some more news? What's going on?
We got both. Why not both?
We're at about an hour, so
Are we really?
probably 50 minutes. So how much more do you got?
That was pretty much everything.
Yeah.
Okay.
All the.
I think we hammered that
Oh, we
one
didn't
pretty
talk
good.
about Constellation buying out Funky Buddha, but I don't know what else do you say. Like, okay.
Yeah.
There they go.
Yeah.
I guess
See you later.
If we were wondering if Constellation buying Ballast was a one-off, we now know it is not.
It is not.
So,
Yep.
I thought
Again,
they would have shied him away.
They're a brand that is new to the beer industry.
How old are they?
Where is Funky Buddha?
I don't know. Oh, Funky Buddha or Constellation?
Oh, Constellation. You're
I have
talking
no
about.
idea.
Constellation's been around forever, and they're a huge
they're a
conglomerate.
wine and spirits brand, right?
We talked
They're
about this
multi-billion.
on another show when Julian Strego called me and
Sup, John?
gave me like 5 points on why Constellation is the worst. But they're no better than any other macro brewery basically. Even though they're not a brewery, they're a company that owns.
I forget where I was reading. Somebody was basically justifying. Oh, the fucking Rate Beer guy. When he sold Rate Beer was like, I'm seeing a lot of sharp elbows out of the craft brewers too. And basically, it's like, are craft brewers even any better? And it's like, fuck off.
Yeah, shut up.
Honestly, my opinion on the Rate Beer thing, I don't know. You guys buddies with that guy? I don't know him.
I don't have
But
a problem with them. I'm friends with them on Facebook.
it seemed like it was a failing beer site
He's a good
that
guy.
took a buyout when they could because it wasn't going to last.
That's what happened, and I'm not gonna hate on him for that. I mean, all right,
But his justifications were weak as fuck.
Can I have the dump
He
bucket,
should have
please?
just said nothing.
well,
He would have been better off not responding to it than going out with like, "Is craft beer truly so righteous?"
the Rate Beer thing, I don't.
Yeah, yeah. Whenever like you do something that's morally questionable, and you go, "Well, you guys aren't any better." Like,
Yeah.
that's like the worst possible defense,
Right.
Because you're saying, "Yeah, I'm guilty, but whatever."
Whateverism, or what is it?
Whataboutism.
Whataboutism. There you go.
Yeah.
Whateverism. That's a thing too, I guess.
Whatever isn't the same. This also isn't. Really good.
whatever.
These beers is like the Milkmaid and the Heifer.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I think these have been on the shelf a little too long.
It's like
These are from 2015.
it's got that burnt sugar, like Cracker Jacky.
Yeah, it's cardboard. It's oxidized. It's like really oxidized.
Make some Cracker Jacks
Yeah,
out of this
no. I want to end the show on a good note, but because this is not good.
You want to try some barrel-aged Fat Hog?
Do I need barley wine right now?
shit. Barley wine is life.
Shut up. It is not.
It is
Not life. No, let's
Do you want to enjoy after from 2015?
Yes.
No, let's see how that is.
I haven't tried one of those.
We just
That'd be
talk
fun.
shit on Stone. I bet it's gonna jizz fucking beer all over my computer.
It's gonna spew hop notes everywhere.
Gonna spew.
Just so you know,
mist.
Greg was the first one to spill beer on the carpet. Whoa! Shit! You're the second one. Jesus Christ.
It shot off like a fucking bullet. I goddamn near died, John, and you're sitting here worried about your fucking carpet?
I like how you said specifically, I bet this is going to go off like crazy.
I didn't expect it to
And
fucking...
then that
The cork... As soon as I uncaged it, the cork just went... Whoop!
boom! That was so much
Oh my
fun.
god, that was
Oh,
bad.
shit. Oh, man.
Cellaring tips. There's a thing on the side of the bottle. Cellaring tips. Recommended aging.
Sorry, John. John just got new carpet and...
Until
Stone ruined it.
10:31.
I blame
15,
Stone for
wow.
this.
Yes, let's
I
play
didn't
Stone
pay
for this.
This room though.
Oh, this room is free.
Good. If there was any room to not pay for, this was the one.
Cellaring tips. From Dr. Bill.
So this is the first Enjoy After they did. From 2015.
Yeah, it was like a best after 2015 Halloween.
Yeah. And now it's almost 2 years after they said Enjoy It After. It fucking... I'm surprised
This
there's
is, now it's enjoy way after.
I'm surprised there's not a mark that fucking blasted out of here.
Well, corks are surprisingly soft and malleable.
Yeah, I'm surprised it didn't go through the fucking attic. It's like still flying.
Some say it's still flying to this day.
There's like some kid in a jet with like, headphones on. He's like, hits the bottom of the plane. Dunk. Bread.
Who's
Where's the
Brett?
pineapple bread?
This smells funky. Ooh, I think I dropped my monkey.
Well, now that cleanup is done.
See how this beer cleans up on my palate.
Oh, I see
Anyhow.
what you did there. I mean,
Oh, no. Ugh.
it's a beer.
Nope. That's why you don't put Brett on an IPA. No. Ew. No, it's too fucking bitter. And like, especially after it's been like 2 years and there is like no residual sugar left over, it's really, really fucking dry.
It's super dry and
So
sharp. It's kind of overcarbonated too.
Really bitter.
Maybe we should do the barley wine.
Oh, barley wine.
Barley wine.
No interest in barley wine.
If you want to find Fort Brewers online,
If you want to find our cork that just shot out,
let's open
Buy a
that-
telescope.
You want to end on a positive note? Let's open the monkish beer.
Yes.
Oh, really? Too sour?
Just monkish.
Oh,
it's
no.
real sour.
Oh, is it really? Fuck.
Fuckers.
All right, fuck it. If you want to find Fort Brewers online, you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, and Instagram. You can find all that information on fortbrewers.com. No, I'm going to start. I'm sorry.
Why did you go with that?
Because that was...
Show's over. I'm tired.
yeah.
If you want to find Fort Brewers, you know where we're at. You found us already. Anyway, see you later. Fuck it, we're out.
Peace out.
For the shit.
I'm tired. You tired. Jesus
Honestly,
wept.
if you just go to fortbrewers.com, everything's there. So.
Yeah, it's pretty much all
Just
on that
surf-
site.
surf
If you
that
want
site.
to find our stuff, go to fortbrewers.com. Brew the shit out of it.
I feel like we're all depressed after this show.
Yes.
Oh, I'm fine.
No, it was a good discussion. The beers just were a little not there.
Well, we didn't plan.
It's okay. Good discussion, though. Good discussion, you guys.
Good talk.
That was a good one.
Good talk.
Now let's put it to bed.
All right.
We should call this episode Good Talk.
That's where it's going to end, where Matt said, all right. So
All right.
Fuck it.
That was fun. It's just
You're
a break
hot.
from our normal format.
I enjoyed it. Yeah, I think that
There
was
was a
cool.
lot to talk about.
Yeah, there's been a lot of news lately, so I was like, fuck, there's enough to just do a show out of.
God, this beard, man. What the fuck, Stone?